As we all know, there's been a recent push, a surge, as we face recruiting challenges. I was lucky enough to attend the All-Volunteer Force Symposium led by the Marine Corps and brought in leaders from across industry, academia, and of course the services to discuss the current battles that we're facing, and they're tremendous. And here to discuss the Marine Corps' perspective and placement on that is General Bowers. And to introduce Major General Bowers is he's the Commanding General of Marine Corps Recruiting Command. And we have Rob Cranston. Rob Cranston is going to lead this fireside chat. And he's the President and Chief Executive Officer of Keynote, LLC, a company he founded in 2008. Keynote specializes in logistics systems integration and provides analytics-based solutions for both federal and commercial clients. Rob has over 30 years of experience in managing profit and loss, building new product lines, strategic planning, program management, business development, and his career includes significant roles in both military and private sectors. Before founding Keynote, Cranston served as a United States Marine Corps officer. He holds a Master's of Science in Finance from Johns Hopkins University, Carey Business School, and a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science from the University of Colorado. And he is awesome, and he's going to shoo me off the stage, and I can't say enough great things about Rob in order to save time. I appreciate you.
We get the mics.
Thanks.
We have two mics. We do have two mics. Okay. Yeah. All right. In a moment, we'll get this kicked off. Are we gonna? Man, we're kicking this now. Hey, Bill, come on out. All right. So this is our first fireside chat. Good to see everybody. We've got a really a nice chat here with that is right there, Major General Bill Bowers. I'm Rob. The flow of this, so we're going to have two, it's going to be really easy. We're going to have two different types of discussions. One, where Bill is right now in terms of General Bowers is in recruiting command, and then tie that into the space that we have been talking through in the contested logistics, but really in the really the intuitive and thought piece around the basing and rebasing and basing in Indo-Pacific that he's had a lot of experience around. So with that being said, real quick, VMI grad 90, he's a 1302, what's the 1302? Is that a, that, yes, infantry logistician. So throughout his company grade and into the field grade assignments, be it known, he served in all different MAGTFs, worked throughout that time, Joint Staff, J5 Directorate, took on multiple recruiting districts, responsibilities, military assistant to the 33rd, 34th Assistant Commandants, and then general officer assignments in 2017, President of Marine Corps University, Commanding General Education Command, and then went into where we'll talk through a little bit of that experience at Marine Corps Installation Specific in Okinawa, and where you are today. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Rob. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. And for the audio, can we get the slides for this? If we just have them set up, that would be great. And we'll get to those, y'all. We'll get to those here in a minute. But I'll just tell you, I've been around General Bowers for quite some time, and it's incredible leadership and watching him interact with. I'll send him texts from different parts of the country where I might come across some recruiting Marines, and like, I'm here, look at this, and just within seconds, he's like, I love it, they're doing great things. And so we are incredible hands with General Bowers. Let's get to it though. Yeah. Recruiting question. Yeah. And please, quick preamble, I know you may want to make mention.
Well, you know, from your bio, I've had kind of an eclectic career path, right? You know, it's a amateur logistician, someone who can't hold the job. My last two jobs are very foundational to who we are, because if we don't make Marines, we don't have a Marine Corps. And if we don't have bases, our Marines don't have a home. So whereas the institution because we're expeditionary in nature, locate, close with, and destroy, we will naturally value the expeditionary side of the Marine Corps and the lethality side of the Marine Corps. We cannot forget there's two foundational pieces of all that. You got to have people, and people got to have a home. So fundamental to everything we do.
And with that, and congratulations with the team. And as we all know, within a very competitive marketplace across different types of skill sets that all the services are looking for. Congratulations on a big win last year with achieving that fiscal goal 2023. I think the big question, and that goal, by the way, was at 29,000. This year, is there a number, can we call it a W this year as well?
We're on track right now.
Yeah.
So with 29,000 non-prior service active Marines last year, 3,100 reserve. Total last year was about 36,000. This year, total, we will assess close to 39,000 active reserve, officer, and enlisted. And time now, we are on track to achieve our mission for FY24, exceeding all DoD quality metrics.
That's
exceeding all standards.
outstanding. I mean, hey, this is a huge. I think, and so with that, Bill, when you get into setting those goals let's talk about that and across the enterprise recruitment priorities, those annual specific skill sets, et cetera.
Yeah, so there's an iteration that occurs with the Deputy Commandant and Manpower Reserve Affairs, the ACMAC, and the Commandant on what our accession mission is going to be for the next year and the out years. And it depends on a number of things. First, it depends on congressionally authorized end strength. So we have to meet our end strength, not only in active, but in reserve. Officers, what we need officer-wise, what the requirements are for the aviation pipeline, the legal pipeline, others, and I can talk about that. We have an increased requirement for lawyers with the Office of Special Trial Counsel that's just been stood up. So we're working on that. And of course, retention, right? Retention of officers, retention of enlisted, and retention of our reservists. So all of this gets factored into the mix. And then we look at the environment that we're facing right now and what type of start pool we need to have. And, you know, healthy growth is we need to be, the Commandant has tasked us to grow the start pool by at least 2% a year. So the start pool is your core strategic reserve. And these are the Marines, officer and enlisted, who are awaiting to ship to either boot camp or OCS, and it's in the delayed entry program, and they're in the out year. A healthy start pool is part of our strategic reserve. It allows us to compete in all markets, high school graduates and high school seniors, and it allows for what we've come to adopt as a standard trimester shipping model. And by that, we should ship around 30% of our enlisted mission from October to January, around 20 to 22% from February to May. That's February, March, April, May, and close to between 47 and 50% of the mission in the summer school. The reason is that it resolves to MOS flow. Other services have MOS schools that we have to send our Marines to. That ensures the fleet, the operating forces have a steady flow of Marines who can meet our global requirements. Now, largely as a result of COVID, closing access to high schools for 2 years, and then medical health system genesis coming on top of that, we are shipping around 56% of our mission in the summer months. So some of your Marines who are out there in the fleet, you know, the Master Sergeant or Master from CLB-8, you may see that you're short in the spring, right? So the fleet units are going to be shorter of personnel in the spring, while those, you know, entry-level recruits are getting trained this summer, and then they're going to go to MOS school and then get out to the operating forces. A healthy start pool allows us to get back on a normal trimester phasing. We are not entirely there now.
No, it's great. And so in transitioning, a lot of the themes throughout the last day, General, has been these in technology and how sophistication in that on the data side. What's some of the technology that you guys are using that's embedded into recruitment and giving you guys advantages?
Yeah, so, social media, of course, is everywhere now. There's talk about Generation Z. They have short attention spans. You got to get their attention in 15 seconds. During COVID, a lot of the prospecting was done on social media because recruiters weren't allowed to go to high schools. I'd say at the recruiter level, technology is a force multiplier, but it does not replace the person-to-person contact that actually attracts and inspires a young man or woman of character to become a Marine. I've heard the other services talk about, recruiting in the current environment, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. We don't go looking for needles in haystacks. If you want to get a needle out of a haystack, what do? You get a very powerful magnet. And we turn our Marine recruiters into magnetic forces with the training, the confidence, the leadership, and we put them out there on the streets of America in the high schools and colleges, and they will draw the needle to them. The other great thing about a magnet is what's it do if the wrong person tries to try for the wrong reason, someone who doesn't meet our standards, it kind of pushes it away, right? I'm not going to hit on the other services, but I'll just tell you, you've probably seen in the news, the Navy has a future sailor prep course. The Army has a future soldier prep course. Those are young men and women who are being assessed who do not meet the standards to start boot camp. Commandant said we're not going there. That doesn't fit our culture. We attract and inspire young men and women of character who can meet that standard.
Yeah.
And technology is helping us do that. The other thing technology is helping us do is geographically arraign our forces so we can have our Marines be most effective at attracting and inspiring the right people to become Marines.
Okay. So great, good. So in that attracting the type of Marines so in this conference and the way that we look at across the logistics portfolio and really the contested logistics environment, is that baked into some of the decision making of how we were looking for?
Yes, it is. So MCICOM actually, my time on installations, they have that program that kind of shows socioeconomic development and what's going on in every zip code out there. We have Center for Naval Analysis that does work for us, and we changed what we refer to as our metric. And the metric determines the geographical apportionment of our forces. So prior to 2022, we looked at two main factors to where we put our recruiters. One, the amount of young men or women who scored a 50% or above on the ASVAB over the past 10 years. 50% or above makes you an alpha. It's a percentile-based test. I'm talking about the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. Two, the amount of DoD contracts that were written in that zip code over the past 10 years. What we found was this was inherently backward-looking. It did not anticipate. So we kept those two factors. We discussed this with the former commandant, said, all right, we're going to keep those two factors, but we're going to add three more. We're going to look at socioeconomic investment into that zip code. If Amazon's building a distribution center there, there's going to be people working there, which means there's going to be schools and retail and others coming in. We looked at childhood obesity, right? If there's childhood obesity challenges in that zip code, then those kids are not going to be within our height weight standards. And we also looked at drug use. Certain parts of the country have had more challenges with drug use. So by adding those three factors into the algorithm, right, that determines our geographic layout, and by nature just diluted the importance of scoring a 50 percentile or above on the test and amount of DoD contracts written over the past 10 years. So in other words, we're putting the catcher's mitt where the curve is going, not where the last pitch went. And because of that, we closed 2 recruiting stations like at speed. Actually closed 3. In 1 year, we closed 3 recruiting stations and we are opening 2. And we would have opened the 3rd one, but we just couldn't get enough recruiters through recruiter school fast enough. So we closed RS Des Moines, Iowa, we closed RS Pittsburgh, and we closed Cleveland. Closed Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, right sizing the Rust Belt. Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania used to have 2 recruiting stations each. Michigan used to have Lansing and Detroit. Ohio used to have Cleveland and Columbus. Pennsylvania used to have Pittsburgh, Harrisburg. We're right sizing down the 1 recruiting station in each of those states, and we're opening another recruiting station in Orlando. We actually screened the commander before we had an installation from the go-into, and Austin, Texas. and we're going to open another one next year.
Yeah. So it's progressive. It's, yeah.
Using technology,
Right.
using technology to position our recruiters where they'll have the best chance for success. And we're doing the same thing on the officer side.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, this one was kind of was off the cuff, but how are, and just it's got me thinking about the other services. How are you, and I know you have a lot of discussions with the other services recruiting. How are you we're all in this fight together.
Yeah.
How are you helping them through perhaps some of their gaps?
Yeah. We have a joint recruiting commanders conference. We have 2 of them a year. We meet quarterly. We have 1 in person. We're going to meet in 2 weeks down in Tampa. And then we have virtually, I talk to them all. We're in different places though, right? So we are in fundamentally different places. And, when we have our joint recruiting commanders conferences, because especially last year, we are making it above all standards and they are not, we are kind of the lead voice. And convening them, getting them together, and working with OSD. So, for example, our last year's conference was in San Antonio, Texas, and the medical health system Genesis had, basically it's sucking all the information on these kids out of the cloud. Right? They put the system in place to suck all the medical information on these kids out of the cloud from the time they were toddlers, and bring it into the system, but they didn't increase the MEP staff to screen all this information. And, they didn't have an AI tool. They had a technological solution to suck up the data, not a technological solution to screen the data. And MEPS was understaffed, especially, during the wars. The Army had pulled other active duty personnel out, so they hired civilians. It's challenging to keep civilians on the payroll. So what it did was it extended the time it takes to enlist from about 10 to 12 days to, some cases more than 50 days. And if your high schools are closed and you need high school graduates, can high school graduates wait around for 50 days to see if they're qualified when mom's telling them to get the hell out of the house? They can't, so they were finding another job. So what we saw was a lot of the kids were just finding something else to do. And whereas before you would have to send 3 kids down to get 2 contracts, you now had to send about 9 to get 5. So we got the other services together. We all signed a joint memo to the Deputy Secretary of Defense and said, look, here's the system, right? Got it. We're not going to fight the system, but just pause it until you can hire more MEPS providers and find a technological solution to screen all this information. So the DepSecDef stood up a task force. General Glenn and I were on it. All the services, and they actually came up with, okay, we're going to put 115 more medical providers in the MEPS. We're going to develop an AI screening tool that's supposed to be online by December. We'll see. That'll help screen these packages. And we're going to rewrite the DoD instruction, on what's disqualifying because, mental health counseling, ADHD, especially during COVID, when high schools, in some cases, doubled the amount of counselors that they have on staff. A lot of these kids have these things in their records. And if they're disqualifying the DoD instruction and you need a waiver, that's a problem. So DoD is going to rewrite the instruction. So what this does is it gives some part-time help. Now, the other services are in better shape now. We'll see where we are at the end of the month. I think the Army lowered their mission by 10,000. Now they're on track to make their reduced mission. The Navy, the Navy's taking Cat 4s. That's the lowest mental group. They're projected to miss by 6,000 to 6,500, maybe 7,000. We'll see. Air Force, I think they're going to be okay. I think the Air Force took a calculated risk. Last year, they just said, hey, we can't make up the distance. We're just going to stop trying to make it in 23, call it a miss, and start building the start pool. So the Air Force accepted defeat in 23 to build for a stronger 24, and I think it's going to work for them.
Oh, that's great. Great inputs. Good stuff. Okay, so now second part.
I hope I'm not losing.
No, I think that gives it.
Stuff,
I mean, again, the whole, once again, the technology component and then building up and building out is, is important for this audience to understand. And getting into now another part of this discussion, power projection, installation. And I've got the slide. We've got some slides here, and let's just so you have them.
So I can, before I can talk to these slides, but let's just, what's a logistics conference at a university without some like theory and Mahan? So, let's go back, Alfred Thayer Mahan, naval strategist, we all studied him at the War College. 3 pillars of naval power: commerce, fleets, bases. All right, so let's look at how we're doing in those 3 pillars of naval power against our pacing threat. Commerce. All right, well, China's, by some accounts, already has the largest economy in the world. Certainly by purchasing power, they do. All right, so commerce, near-run thing. Okay, maybe China's ahead. Fleets. China's building ships at a breakneck pace. They've already got a bigger navy than us. And now I'm not talking quality, right? So there's qualitatively, they have some real challenges, but they are building ships at a breakneck pace. They have a bigger navy than us. They certainly have more ships and more capacity in the Indo-Pacific and in the neighborhood we're talking about. What they don't have, what they want, what they're trying to get in places like Myanmar, Pakistan, Oceania, are bases. Specifically, advanced naval bases. We, on the other hand, have them. And bases, right, that 3rd pillar of Mahanian naval power, are a unique competitive advantage, especially in the Indo-Pacific, and especially against our pacing threat. Let me just talk about a couple of advantages, why bases are important. Because like I said earlier, Marine Corps, we're an expeditionary organization. We value the going out from bases, right? As the Commandant acknowledged, we've underfunded some of our installations for years, and now we're putting money in our barracks. Bases matter. Bases are a competitive advantage. In the Indo-Pacific, 5 reasons why they matter so much and why they're going to be key to any conflict or anything that happens out there. They give us positional advantage, right? The bases give us a 6,000-mile head start, especially those bases up there in the first island chain. Can we go to the next slide? Show where our bases are? Go to the next one. Yeah, there they are. You see the red bases are ours, the blue ones are the Navy. And that's from China looking out. Bases give us positional advantage, a 6,000-mile head start. They will also provide national decision makers what's needed most as a crisis is escalating: time and decision space. Second, bases are nodes of joint, bilateral, multilateral, combined, land-based sea power, right? In the 21st century naval campaigning, all elements of power coalesce and come together. And I can tell you, every single base in the Indo-Pacific, every one of our Marine bases over there hosts joint, in some cases combined combat power. And I can give you examples, chapter and verse. Every single one of them. Every one of our Marine bases out there has joint enabling capabilities, combined enabling capabilities, and is key to land-based sea power. And the sum of that power is much greater than the parts. Third, they magnify economic power. Our advanced naval bases magnify economic power. Within Marine Corps Installations Pacific, you have 11,000 total people within the organization. 4,000 of those people are allied citizens. Most of them are Japanese citizens who work on our bases in Okinawa and up on mainland Japan. We had about 150 Koreans who worked over at Camp Mujuk. We have folks out on Guam, but 4,000 of our employees are actually Japanese citizens. And then they are supported by their government. They are working for us, and they give us such a competitive advantage, and they give us home team advantage there. And I could talk about the skills. Some of those Japanese workers have been working for us for 20, 30 years. And some of them are the only ones who can do some of the jobs they do. When you talk about the tug pilots who help the ammo ships come into Tengan Pier in those very treacherous waters there in the East China Sea. There's only a couple of Japanese pilots who can do that. They've been doing it for 20 years. They know how to do it. They know how to moor the ship into the pier without knocking the pier over. So, but they magnify economic power. You look at the slide up there, and I can talk more about this in the Q&A. 90% of the world's most advanced microchips. Think about this. 90% of the world's most advanced microchips are manufactured under the protective umbrella of our military bases. You see up there, you see where the little star is on the Korean Peninsula up near Seoul? That's near Camp Humphreys. Of course, you see Camp Mujuk there. You see on Kyushu, that's right near Iwakuni. You go down to Okinawa and you see the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, what they're doing. And that's, of course, we have our bases on Okinawa, right there. There's a great book called Chip War by Chris Miller where he talks about all this. Bases magnify economic power, help drive the global economy, and they're just a coalescing function. Fourth, our advanced naval bases, especially the ones overseas, are places where service members and their families project liberal democratic values. You cannot underestimate the power of values. I'm fond of saying, especially when I was over there, we project our ethos and core values every day, right? Projecting our ethos and core values. We have to remember, we, the United States, have zero strategic position in the Asia Pacific without the invitation from our allies to be there. If we don't project our ethos and core values and live by them, we place that special relationship with our allies at risk. And fifth, advanced naval bases in another country just provide the ultimate example of skin in the game. We have more than 50,000 service members serving in Japan. We have 53,000 family members, teachers, contractors. So we have more than 100,000 total Americans with the DoD in Japan. We have about 100,000 in Korea. That's skin in the game. They're projecting our ethos and values, and base defense for us is homeland defense for our allies. And as we know from World War II, our allies take homeland, and Korea, our allies take homeland defense very seriously. And we're doing exercises. When I was over there, we're doing exercises with the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. We're bringing them on our bases. We have base defense plans. Base defense for us is homeland defense for allies. The sum is greater than the parts. Our advanced naval bases are an enormous competitive advantage. And I'd encourage all the logisticians out there, all of us, seek a tour on installations. I know we are programmed into Marine Corps to value the expeditionary side of the Corps and not the installation side. That has got to change. The installations, our advanced naval bases, are an enormous competitive advantage. And I go back to Title 10 too. Remember the mission of the Marine Corps. It's not just seize advanced naval bases. Seize and defend. And defend advanced naval bases.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, so we've got we've got some energy folks out here, and I think how that fits in and energy resilience and energy, what is not operational energy, but I'm talking about energy infrastructure. So with that,
we can talk about energy infrastructure. So how safe would it be to move fuel 6,000 miles across the Pacific, right? In World War II, right, the shortage was in oilers, right? No, we almost ran out of fuel in Guadalcanal. I mean, the oil over there, there's a big refinery in Busan, South Korea. So our allies provide logistics support, right? So, I talked about the ammo ship unloading at Tengan Pier. There's like 8 Japanese tug pilots who understand the currents, understand how much pressure to put against as they moor the ship against that pier. Tengan Pier is the only place that is the single point of failure to bring ammo into Okinawa.
With the explosive arc.
Within the explosive arc, that is it. Yeah. Now there's plans to build a longer pier and to get it out there, especially as you talk about bringing more advanced weapons in. That's it. And, during the COVID scare, when some of those Japanese tug pilots were going down with COVID, we were like counting on like single digits. Hey, we got to get a ship in here. We got work to do. So you realize kind of the fragility of the infrastructure. And this is where we love to talk lethality, right? I was just hearing it earlier, lethality. It's all about lethality. No, it's not. I'm telling you, no, it's not, gang. It's resilience and lethality. And you know, the title of our article is Shield to the Indo-Pacific. You get one fighter goes into a fight with 2 swords, and another fighter who goes in with a shield and a sword. I'll tell you right now, 100 to 1, who's going to win? Mm-hmm. The one who has the shield and the sword. Mm-hmm. You got to have the shield too. And the shield is that installation resilience, right? And how you harden yourselves. You know, we can talk, you know, you talked about survivability. I'm glad to hear that. Tactically, operationally, strategically, politically, you know, we've put some thought in how we actually do that. It's more challenging in a nuclear context. You know, the Pacific is not the Mideast. There's 5 nuclear powers out there bumping against each other in the Pacific. It is major leagues. But yeah, you need to have resilience along with lethality.
Yeah. Built into status of forces agreement and other, right? Yeah, within that. Oh, and by the way, up here, these are the general was mentioning, the articles that, we'll get this out, but by all means, please look these up and take a look at them. There's Nathan. Okay. Hey, first start, I think we're good on time here. Let's open this up.
Yeah.
We've got time for some questions, so fire away, gang.
Yeah, I hope the discussion's helpful and gives you what you're looking for. You know, I hope it didn't lose some of you in the details talking about recruiting and manpower. The logistics field is bright, right? We are recruiting some amazing logisticians out there. The quality of the kids coming in is better than it's been. I can talk officer, I can talk enlisted, but you are gonna be leading motivated, outstanding young Marines out there. Promise you.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. That being said, questions, sir.
Thank you, General Bowers. This is a great talk. I'm a retired Marine. I've got 2 tours on recruiting duty. I went through the Fluge era, and I watched the 4th District go down and come back up. And one of the things that General LaFavor and General Salinas did basically make sure that we sustained that in the time was taking care of the 2nd tour recruiting officers.
Yeah.
Because when you went back to the problems we had at the 4th District, you had a CO who had been the CO of RSLA, but then the officers, we had a district XO who had no recruiting time, one had some, and so he didn't know what to do when things started to turn south. And so there was very much the mantra of, winning nation's battles and making Marines, and so is when the promotion boards. So when you go through and the Marine Corps makes its cut, a lot of logisticians, for example, who'd done multiple tours, they were going into the promotion boards, and the boards were saying, RSCOs got the recruiting cut. I would like to have seen a more rounded officer, not somebody who'd done multiple recruiting tours, because the boards didn't really understand that recruiting is an operational.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I've lived it.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And so when you come out, is that I suspect, because I could see it coming, is that my peer group that done multiple recruits didn't get promoted, and then history kind of repeated itself. So my question is, what is the Marine Corps doing to protect those officers who are doing the multiple recruiting tours to ensure that they are taken care of when it's time for promotion?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So look, for those who just saw the Colonel Command screening message, I mean, the Commandant has now elevated the district commander up to the Commandant Special Selection Program. So that's the first thing. Commandant selecting the district commanders, just along with TBS, MOTS, OCS, and now there were 3 district commanders selected on this most recent board. It's going in board precepts, right? That, the importance of recruiting and making Marines. I believe in the precept to the Colonel Command message that just came out, the Commandant even put in there, due to the importance of recruiting in the current environment, this is what I'm adding to the Commandant Special Selection Program. Yeah, I think a lot of it, I think we got to take care of people on these boards. I'll also add that, it pays to have some folks with recruiting experience on those boards, because, we live in a real world, and if you recruit on some tough dirt, you're probably not going to get straight A's. I know I didn't up in Michigan, right? I mean, so, a C plus, and I'm proud of that C plus, right? But, tough, we need Marines to do hard jobs in hard places. Hard jobs, hard places. That is what our ethos is all about. So getting folks with recruiting experience on these boards who can say, yeah, Bauer's got a C plus up there in Lansing, Michigan. That's calculus, right? That's advanced in this environment. In some parts of the country, a lot of windshield time, weather challenges, a lot of these, especially for the second tour recruiters, because you know what MM is doing, right? And this is where we got to change the narrative on recruiting duty too, because folks hear it's hard out there, right? Oh, they hear careers end out there. So if they hear that, they don't want to go, right? And yeah, it is challenging. It's the most challenging, rewarding, fulfilling assignment out there right now. Having the district commanders selected by the commandant is important. Putting it in board precepts is important. Selecting our best Marines to go out there, truly magnetic forces, right? Like those talent magnets who can get out there and attract and inspire young men and women of character to join the Corps, to come be a part of this. That's important too. And then just following through. So I think we're doing that. I think we're doing that. We're seeing a lot of volunteers to come out to recruiting. I was just out at 1MEF last week with Sergeant Major. We talked about 1,000 Marines. We had volunteers at the end of every talk we gave. We got a board coming up where we're going to screen the RS commanders. I think we're doing that. But we got to sustain it. Does that answer your question, sir? Thanks.
Morning, General. Chief Warrant Officer, we're working in ammunition logistics.
If you could hold off to ask your question until because we want to capture every word that.
Yeah.
Morning, General. Chief
Yeah.
Warrant Officer Moore, currently working in NAVSUP ammunition logistics, one of the global things, but I work in the regional office here for the Atlantic Coast. My question getting at your Indo-PACOM comments in the installation of logistics. A lot of people like to talk about, critical munitions and all those things, but yet they never consider the supply chain execution or supply chain management for the room. Even if we got every weapon we wanted, we don't have the magazine capacity. That's infrastructure. One magazine's between $8 and $10 million a pop. Loaded question, sir, but when you were with installation and logistics, how much was the Marine Corps looking at that? Because I'm struggling to get NAVSUP to really pay attention to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, terrific question. How much was the Marine Corps looking at it? Well, I was certainly looking at it, right? Because if you're going to get advanced missiles into one of the most humid areas on Earth, you need climate control, right? So climate-controlled ammo storage facilities. You need special equipment to move them. I went and toured Sasebo, right? So the Japanese ammo facilities for World War II, right? Some of those ammo bunkers, they're still there. They're still there. They survived. That's how well constructed their ammo facilities were. I've been to Iwakuni, right? And I've been in our magazines. And, we host the Reagan Carrier Strike Group at Iwakuni. We host Japanese Fleet Air Wing 31, one of the two major Japanese Fleet Air Wings, and of course the Corps' only forward-deployed 5th Gen Joint Strike Fighters. It's a great example of strategic hardening, by the way. But I went out there and looked at their ammo storage facilities, and guess whose are climate controlled? The Japanese. The Japanese put the money in to climate control their ammo storage. Ours are not, and it takes a lot of work, as you well know, from our ammo techs to get that ordnance ready to go. So, this whole .MLPF thing, right? The long, cumbersome process. It really needs to be .MLPF-I, right? And kind of the F and the I, it really needs to be IF.MLP. Because if you don't have the installations infrastructure and facilities infrastructure to support it, where are you going to put all these weapons? How are you going to move them? I was certainly looking at it. If you factor in the cost to climate control those magazines out there, right? And then you got to build the new Tengan Pier, right? You got to extend it out because you got the explosive arc, all those considerations. It's expensive. It's expensive. So, yeah, we're looking at all of it. We're looking at it in Hawaii. We're looking at it in the First Island chain. I went and toured the magazines at Sasebo, the Japanese magazines at Sasebo that are still there, still functional, still operational. We're using them. They're built into the side of a mountain. It's actually some good lessons for us too, because I heard the master sergeant here ask about what are we thinking about survivability. You know what my answer to you is? Oh, he left. All right, yeah. Subterranean. So subterranean. You got to get back underground, right? Not everything is going to be mobile, just avoiding, stay mobile. You can't do that with everything. You got to get underground. You got to get survivable for those no-fail areas. So I think they're looking at it pretty hard out there, Gunner. I'm not sure we were a few years ago. I think we are now. I know I was, and our team was. That answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'll give you the straight truth. Give you. It is a huge consideration, and the Japanese had climate-controlled magazines. We're going to need them.
Yeah, good. Well, any other questions out here?
I think there's one right there. Yeah.
I think cost is the cost.
It's going to cost a fortune. Yeah, but it's worth it though, because you get yeah.
Good morning, sir. Larry Day. I'm the chief engineer for the LI2S portfolio under POMOB, the logistics side. So, question I have, I know Charlie Bach and his guys out the Marine Corps Software Factory, Lieutenant Colonel Bach, created an engagement app for your Marine recruiters.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome job. So I was engaged in some of that. So I guess on the flip side of that, to be resilient, biggest problem we have from a sustainment of our portfolio is the ability to modernize the software to maintain the pace. So how important is it from a Marine Corps general's perspective for us to be able to modernize the software so that we can get the data where it needs to be to support logistics? Because I'll be honest with you, sir, it's not friggin' easy. And it's kind of hard for us to say, we've got O&M money to sustain things, but at some point in time, we have to be able to look across the portfolio and say, are those workflows still accurate? How do we revise those workflows? We have to take a strategic pause to work with the guys that do that work to see if they're still accurate. Because some of these workflows were created in '58. So
Before you answer real quick, we've got 3 minutes to answer that one.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
You gotta keep us on
I
schedule.
think keeping pace with the IT system is extremely challenging. We have the recruiting information support system that's, we've wanted it for years. We're behind. We're making progress now. It's extremely challenging in all facets of logistics and personnel planning. We're having challenges keeping up with our own software. The recruiter support system, latency, and just making sure that they have the data they need on their target market. We're working hard to get a new system fielded, but while you're fielding a new system, what do? You got to sustain legacy because it's a no-fail mission. But Chris, so that's why we're having to put a lot of money into sustaining legacy. So we're sustaining the old system that was out there when I was a recruiting station commander, 2003. Right? But we got to sustain it while we're building the new system. Extremely challenging. Wish I had a better answer.
Great. No, that's good, sir. Thank you for being here. This is wonderful. Absolutely hit the mark across the board, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks, Rob. Great to be here with you. Thanks for the invite, Rob.
That's it.